Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the official live stream of Daniel and Dr. Joe. Now, by the looks of it, it must be hot there in Sydney, is it, Joe? Looks like you're sweating already.
Yes, and obviously being in the office and didn't really manage to get changed, that really adds nice flavor to it. So being in a necktie, certainly not a good thing, I can assure you that.
Well, the topic of today
So hot.
is how you deal with the fear of public speaking, and I believe one of the first things is that you've got to dress how you want to be addressed. So wearing the necktie, Joe, I think is perfect attire for today.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate this. To be honest to you, to be very frankly speaking, I'm not really a big fan talking about myself, but wearing a necktie is not my thing. And that's why I enjoyed working in the US, because you can do whatever it is in casual attire, but Australia, I guess, is a bit different. So I'm not going to talk about myself because I got to keep sticking to my rules that I teach the people. But thank you so much for hosting me. And I was really looking forward to that chat. And I did shoot a video to try to tell the people that this will be a regular thing. It's happening, but unfortunately, it was not edited in time. So it might be coming, running on Arab time. If you want.
Inshallah, we'll see the video, inshallah.
That's right.
You know, one of the important things that I've learned, Joe, about public speaking is you've got to dress how you want to be addressed, but the way we dress also tells the audience how we want them to experience our speech. And there's definitely times where you want to be casual. There's definitely times where you want to dress down, but there's also times where you really want to dress it up, because the speaker is the leader, the person who's leading the people at that stage. And very important that as a public speaker, that you do dress, or firstly, how you want to be addressed, but also to set the tone of the audience. And a lot of people have fears. I believe that the fear of public speaking, which is called glossophobia, is the number one fear in the whole world. People would rather die than get up on stage and speak publicly.
That's right.
So in your career, you've spoken to large groups. So Joe, what's the largest group that you've spoken to on the public platform?
I'm not certain about the number exactly, but it's somewhere around the 10,000. So 9,900, something like this. That's probably the largest at one point, at one day.
So 9,900 in one day. There's a lot that we can learn from this, because for our audience who are joining us today, and wherever you're joining us from, we'd love to know where you're joining us from. Do you like public speaking, or do you hate it? I started out, my first appearance was naked, screaming in the hospital. That was my first public speaking appearance, and after that it all went downhill. And I remember when I was in Emirates Airline, I had to do the PA, and I was absolutely terrified of speaking publicly, because it triggers off fears of rejection and fears of criticism. So what about you? Do you like public speaking? Is it something you enjoy, or is it something that you prefer to avoid? Let us know in the chat box.
Yes, that's a very good question. And again, a reminder, now we're getting into, the habit of being together on Monday with the legendary Daniel Tolson. For those people who haven't met Daniel before, this is the first time to see Daniel. He's a legend, a friend of mine. Our chat is not about me and him, it's about you. So remember, the rules that we play by here is, if you are with us, you're putting something in the comments and you're keeping that conversation. And if you have seen the post that I have put on Instagram and Facebook, I said it's a free consultation. Hi, Megs, good to see your comment. I said it's a free consultation, which means you can essentially pop a question and we will answer that question as we going. And if you know what I have done as in public speaking training, I'm the indistractable person, so you can never distract me. And I challenge you to try to distract me. Throw questions anywhere. I will take it, link it to my topic, and keep going. That's a skill I have mastered and I have taught many people. Moving on from here,
Ooh,
is
I
you
like
tell
that
us
one. That
what's
sounds like
happening.
sounds like utilization to me.
Yes, it's absolutely a true thing. And it's, I'm not sure if you've seen this, Daniel. I think I've done a couple of videos about it on TikTok, and I'm actually doing it live. I'm getting recorded live, telling the people the rule, and they have to throw a word or two that has nothing to do with my story, like completely out of my story. And my job is to take that, incorporate it into my story, and keep running with it. So this is something that, I always say distractions will always throw you off, but if you don't prepare yourself, you will be thrown off. And you hear noise, you hear sirens, you hear anything. Hello, Daniel, good to see you. Hi, Daniel. Jeremy is saying hi, Jeremy. And actually, if you train for it, when you hear like a siren, whatever it is, you can incorporate it in your story. And I think, Daniel, you have been doing this and you're very natural with it. I think a lot of people need to practice that as well, like me and you, to become natural at it, because distractions will always come. It's unavoidable. But today, reframing what we have discussed is how to build your personal brand, that personal character that is attractive, that is interesting, that is confident, that is charismatic. Are there some steps that we can go through? Yes, we'll be taking you through this. Me and Daniel have walked through this journey, and I always say, remember one thing: don't take an advice from a general that has never been to war about a war advice. We have been there. We have gone through the nerves, and we have helped ourselves and many people. So if there's someone to give you an advice on this and tell you how you can do it, those people are right here, and it's for free.
Let's do it. Megs, thanks for joining us. Morna, thank you for joining us. Jeremy, thanks for joining us. I remember when I was living in Dubai, I was working for Emirates Airline, and my purser, which was my manager, she said to me, she said, Daniel, you're a native English speaker. Can you please do the PA? And I said, you speak English? She said, well, I'm the Arabic speaker. I will do the PA in Arabic, and you can do it in English. So she gave me the piece of paper, and I looked at it. My heart started to tremble. My chest started to tighten up. My mouth went really dry, and I started to get out the Masafi water, and I was chugging it down. And I took the PA, and I thought, my gosh, I've got to stand here in front of 400 people and make a speech. So I got the curtain in first class, and I pulled the curtain across, and I hid behind the curtain, and I said, ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard Emirates Flight 418 bound for Sydney. Today we'll be taking off northwest out of Dubai, flying out over the Gulf, and we'll be flying over the World Airlines. And I did the speech, and I did it, and people went, hooray! And they started to clap. They started to say, who did the speech? Was that the captain? They said, no, that was the Australian guy. And I got this lovely compliment, but gee, I was scared. And it took me about 6 or 7 months to come out from behind the curtain with my speaking. And what I had to do is I had to learn what other successful people were doing. I could speak, I could read, that wasn't the problem. I just didn't have a strategy. So Hamida, thank you for joining us here. And she says, all the great speakers were stressed out at some point, 100%. Joseph, thanks for joining us, and hello to you also. And Morna, when unprepared, I have a fear of public speaking. And we'll talk about preparation today. So Joe, how do you prepare for a public speech? What do you do?
Well, to share quickly a bit of a thing from my side about a similar experience to yours. I'm not going to go in details. I'm going to keep it really short and sweet. Basically, I prepared for my first public speech, which was supposed to be to a group of 50 people. And it took me about 9 hours to prepare for 12 minutes. I had everything written down, everything structured, colors, beauty, everything. And then I stood in front of them. Gone. And I started sweating, and I was
like you've been sweating today. Maybe you're sweating because you were...
No. I was like way worse. It was like, I was in a sauna, and I'm standing, and everybody's like looking at me. You know what? I learned one thing, guys. By the way, if we are talking about an interesting story, just like, Daniel's one or mine, please, for our amazing people that are watching us and listening now, or even in the replay, make sure that you ask yourself one question. Okay, what do I take away from this story? So from Daniel's one, what do I personally take away? Because I'm not Daniel. He was telling me the story. So I was listening actively. Okay, what do I take away from it? Is that creating physical barriers gives us a soothing feeling that is camouflaging our not so confident self. Physical barrier. Okay, curtain. The curtain is not really a big deal. But when he created that in his mind that, yeah, if I do this, I can actually do it. So it's some kind of management tool that he utilized to break through as Daniel Tolson. So this is what I have been taken away when I'm listening. And when I say my story, I prepared everything because Mona just said that she has to prepare. If she's not prepared, she has fear. And Mona, by the end of this session, I will be guiding you to not prepare and not have any fear of public speaking without preparation. You might think that me and Daniel, we have been preparing and we're discussing what we're going to talk about. And let me tell you, you are wrong. We haven't. We just step in, we ask questions, we kind of know the topic, and I have no idea what he's going to ask me. He has no idea what I'm going to ask him, and we're going to playing it on the spot. But I'm not suggesting to do this all the time. You're not that level yet, but with the training, you will be. So moving on from here, preparation. If preparation is going to give you the confidence, you'll always lack it. Confidence has to be absolute. We spoke about this in our last one, that you have that platinum confidence, which means essentially that you hold the reins to your confidence, not bound by any other factors that will be like, oh, I need the preparation, or I need the light, or I need this and that. People present public speaking on stern, leg stern. Why do they present it on leg stern? Simply because they need that physical barrier, the curtain for Daniel. So how do I prepare to answer your question, Daniel? At this stage, I don't actually prepare because I'm only talking about topics that I am an expert in. But I do have a format that I have shared it on my YouTube channel. It's actually a format that I have used for many, many, many people. I don't even know the number, but I would say thousands, somewhere close to 1 million, because it's also on social media. With this format, if you know your area, whatever it is that your area that you're talking about, if you use that format, it will never fail you, and it will prepare you to any situation to jump in right on. So my preparation for me, Daniel, to really answer question specifically, I think of the first 3 questions I'm going to ask to hook my audience, because today we're talking about how to be an interesting person, how to engage, how to talk to this camera right here as if it's part of your body. You see, when you look in the camera, you feel like I am actually connected to you. I am right there next to you. We both know that this is live streaming, it's on camera, but it's that level of connection. When do I go closer? When do I go away? Sorry, I hit the mic. All these things, all the movements, all the angles, as you can see, I'm very, very swift on that chair. This is all kind of preparation for this live stream, because I don't like to be restrained. I like to have free movement. This is exactly what's happening before your eyes. So I'll think about the questions, Daniel, that I'm going to ask my audience that will hook them, that they are interested in. So it's something for them. And from there onwards, I will create the steps right away, because I'm talking about topics that is actually my area. I hope I answered your questions, Daniel.
It's a wonderful question. And what I learned, Joe, just to give people the facts, there's some people there who like the opinions and they like the facts. As a author, you need to know 10 words for every 1 word that you put in your book. But like Joe said here, he's already a subject matter expert. He knows his topic. And you have to really know your topic if you want to get up and speak. So preparation is the key. But for a professional speaker, you need to know 100 words for every 1 word that comes out of your mouth. And so what this means is, it means make sure you choose your topics wisely. And if you know the topic, you'll get expert status immediately. So know what the topic is. Like Joe said, prepare with some questions to hook them in, to grab their attention. Because what you've got to do is you've got to arrest people's attention. Once you can arrest their attention, you can then create intrigue and you can bring them in. So, Joe, are we born public speakers? I know we can all talk, but can we speak?
No, this is something that we have to work on and refine and reshape. We were actually, I talked about this before, we were born confident. There is no baby on planet Earth anywhere that is not born with confidence naturally. It happens. That's why you tell them, oh, don't touch this, don't do this, and they just act like they're big gun. They go, I can do this, I can do that. It doesn't really matter. But the problem is, as they go through the society and experiences, and people put them down, toxic relationships, etc., they start losing that confidence. But can we talk? Yes, as you said, but as public speaking, it's studies that I had to study, and I have so many qualifications, and I never stopped being a student to learn this, because it's the essence of pedagogical studies. How does the brain work? And this is, in terms of psychology, how does the human brain work? And how do you manage to deliver that message to that person? Anybody can speak, Daniel, but not everybody can train. Because I have a skill. My job is to transfer that skill from my side to you. so you can capture the skill as well. I can talk about it all day long, like what we're saying right now. Okay, well, you need to do this, you need to do that. But until you actually manage to do it and it becomes a particular habit, and I always say that, practice makes it perfect, we all know this. But perfect practice makes it permanent. So if you are practicing with models with a strategy, it becomes a habit, then it doesn't really matter if you're sober or drunk, it will still happen and it will still deliver. That's the idea. Does
Well,
that make sense?
let me ask the audience a question. How would you like to be able to stand up on your feet and speak confidently? Now, what would happen to your career if you could do that? If you could stand up at any time and speak confidently on your feet? What if you could
Okay, can
start to
can I give
influence
them a hint?
small groups and large groups of people with your words? I mean, what type of difference would that make for your career and for your business? And just begin to think about that as you join us today. What type of difference would this make in your life? Now, Hamida says, I believe this is not just about what you said, this is more about how you made your audience feel. Ooh, I like that one. How do you respond to that one, Joe?
Well, how do you connect with people, Hamide? And this is part of what we're talking about today, that how to connect to that camera here. This is a lens, but when to look away, when to look into that lens. And I'm kind of demonstrating to you, I'm not distracted. Everything that I'm doing here on camera is with volition, with control, with thought. There is nothing happening randomly. When I'm looking away, I know that I'm looking away. I'm consciously aware of every single move, even my microfacial expressions are doing. The reason for that, Hamida, is every single time that particular move, that particular muscle creates a particular feeling with the right words. For example, if I say, Hamida, your comment was so amazing, okay, that gives you a feeling. See how I looked up? I'm kind of telling you what I have done. But if I look at you, get closer, it's like, Hamida, your comment is so inspiring. Now, if I've demonstrated Joe 1, demonstrated Joe 2, closer with a bit of a eye. Can you see this that I'm doing? And this is the difference between presentation and between training. Why people, I get asked this question all the time. Okay, Joe, you're doing a lot of things online, videos for free. Why should people pay thousands of dollars to come and see you? What's the point? The point is, I can talk about it and I'm doing it, I master it. But what about you? You're enjoying it and you're having a good time. But one day you'll be on stage and you'll need to practice all this. And if you're not doing it with me in training and actually feeling that this is part of what you do and how you are, then we haven't really moved anywhere. And this is why we're saying what we're saying. So Daniel asked you a question. What do you think being able to present yourself and really connect with people, that public speaking can do to your career, whatever your career is, to become the authority to speak on that topic, whatever it is your topic and your specialty? I wanted to really give you a hint. I'm not sure if Daniel heard me or not, but I wanted to give you a hint about this and say, zeros, add zeros to it. Okay. Now, some people work in Australia and do a job $20 an hour. Some other people just stand and talk and they get triple, quadruple, and more zeros. What's the difference? The difference is their ability to, one, deliver the information, transfer the skill, two, as Hamida said, how to make the people feel as they projecting that message, as they sharing that message. You're actually tapping into the people emotions. And we have Daniel here, emotional intelligence has been his journey for quite some time, how to really connect with people on an emotional level and actually get that feeling across. Obviously, we have three factors that we're working with Daniel, right? The body language and the tone and the actual specific words. What is one thing that you have done, Daniel, that made you connect with the audience on a deeper level?
Well, I might even share it with the photo. There's a photo here that
Nice.
I'd like to share with you all, and this was at a speech that I delivered in Taiwan last year, and I was invited to come and speak to a group of 1,000 people. And one of the things that I was talking about was my journey. And it's quite interesting is that we all have a journey. We all have our ups and we have our
Mm-hmm.
downs. And one of
Yep.
the things that I find with speaking is vulnerability. And when you can show people what's happened to you without making it a sob story, but what they can learn from this experience, that really connects with people because we're all going through a challenge and we're all looking for a solution. And if you can share this with others, they really enter into your model of the world. So you make it easy for them to enter into your model. You create pictures in their mind. You create sounds in their mind. You create those feelings in the body. And you can do this with your voice. You can do it with your tones. You can do it with your body language. So what I was doing here was all successful speaking is about preparation. And so this is me preparing to go out and speak to 1,000 people. And what I had to first of all do is I had to decide, Joe, what was the emotional state that I needed to be in. Now, the emotional state that I wanted my audience to be in was a state of curiosity. And so the eyes are open. There's a little bit of a cheeky grin there happening, just slightly, a little bit cheeky. And you go out. And what happens is people go, "Ooh, what's happening here?" And they can feel the vibe. And so that's backstage preparing. And what you have to do here is you have to take your audience on a journey. And you do that by getting into the emotional state, first of all. So that's what I'd be doing, Joe.
Well, this is awesome. And I do love that picture, but I have to say, honestly, and I'm not really, lying here, you look like you're in your late 20s, man. So bless you. I know that you said last year, I know now, but I'm really gonna keep it up. Like if you see me, I'm like, wow, look at me. I'm always, kind of the camera is something that I have feared for ages back in the day. But right now, I was talking to someone and I said, I am happy for the team to come and move to my house and have the camera on live recording 24 hours. And they said, really? I said, yeah, apart from the bathroom and the shower, everything else is fine. So no nudity. But other than this, I said, I have nothing to hide. And all my life revolves around reshaping someone's life to a better version of themselves. Some of these jobs I do it paid through my own job, and some of these things I do it for social media. So if the camera is on, the content is out there, there's no content that is useful, Daniel, and our audience, until you try to practice it. Attending the training with people that attend the training with me, I force them into action. On day one, when I was training our public speaking certified coach, Daniel, on day one, I asked them to present 1-minute presentation on the spot. Knowing after I asked them, so you're saying that you read the room and you get the vibe and all that stuff, and everybody's like terrified. They have no idea. They're all like shaking. I was like, all right, you got 30 seconds. Pick a topic. And I tell them this. Pick a topic that you are really, really passionate about. I don't care what it is. I'm not an industry expert in all industries. I only know my area. But if someone was to talk about hairdressing, if someone was to talk about carpentry, I will have no idea. And you know what? It didn't matter. What really matters is pick a topic that you're passionate about. You got to give me 1-minute presentation. Is this the picture from that 1 year ago, did you say? Or was that another event, Daniel? This is pretty cool. I like it.
This is another event. This was in Malaysia, the day 24 hours before they locked down the country for COVID-19.
Ah, yes,
And I
yes,
must
yes.
have been smiling in advance because I knew I was going to get out of there and get home.
This is pretty cool. I think you were telling me, but I haven't seen the picture. Yeah, it's pretty cool. That's awesome. Look at those smiley faces and everybody, like you can feel the energy happening in the room. And this is what we were talking about, is how to connect with the people. When I do pictures like this, I get people to do like really silly stuff to get them to break through that shyness of, I gotta look professional or look at me. So I actually do like really silly, let's call it the stupid things. I didn't want to say the word stupid just in case there's someone underage listening, but silly in that sense, like be yourself. Absolutely be yourself. This is how you can connect deeply with the people. People don't want any of us to be a TV star. Nobody wants that. They want you to be who you are in the way you are and accept and admire your imperfection. So this is very, very important. We've got Claire here. Daniel, I like your voice. Do you mind reading it to us, please?
Talking about reading the room, how do you find this on Zoom? I have had to adapt and enhance my NLP skills dramatically to read people. It's very different as you can't feel the energy. Claire, this is a really good question, and both Joe and I will give you our insights on this. I'll give you insights from a training where I had 370 registered guests on the Saturday night, and I'll talk to you about how I was reading the room. But I'll let Joe share his thoughts to start with.
I have no idea what you're gonna say, Daniel, but all I'm thinking here is that I really, really hope that I say something that you don't say, so that way Claire gets double the trouble tips. Okay, so Claire, I am, psychology is my area. So for me, sometimes I don't get to read things. I get to move things the way I want. I can control someone's feeling. I make it happen. So if I was in your place, and I do understand the difficulty because we are living it here right now, I'm just looking into a lens. I have no idea who's behind it. So I will ask people a question that will actually tap their emotions. Here is an example. Hey, what are you guys looking forward to this weekend? That's a question that will instantly shift their mind from the meeting or whatever it is, or anything positive. I don't want to cross the boundary that I'm talking about personal life in case, there's some HR issues about it. Think about something that can trigger a positive anchor into their mind and tap into that. Irrelevant of how they are feeling, if you tap into this, they will shift their mindset from whatever negative feeling or neutral into positive. And I always say, use the dose as necessary. If they were still not there, double tap that dose. Not there, triple tap it. Ask the third, fourth question until you move them. Okay. This is something I personally would do to do this. Another thing I will do, I'll give you two tips from my side. I'm answering questions here on the fly, which is really great. Other thing I ask is like, okay, now after you told me about this, once someone said something very positive, whatever it is that they're looking forward to on the weekend, or they're looking forward to success, commission, whatever it is next month, I'll tell them, okay, now I want you to describe your feeling in one word. Look, I don't care what it is, good, great, awesome. I kind of give them here a little bit of a heads up to go into that direction. And then I select the activists, the pragmatists, the people that are full of vibe and full of energy and positive. And then I keep the people that I'm a bit cautious about towards the end. So when they hear great, awesome, fantastic, looking forward to it, fantabulous, etc., it forces them to jump into that frame. So from that perspective, Claire, I didn't actually read the room as such. I more forced them to move into that positive track. That's from my side. Mr. Daniel, mic is yours.
Well, thank you so much. Claire, a couple of ideas here that I'll share with you. I had 370 registered guests for my 100x DNA intensive on Saturday night. Now, when we run this event, it's through what we call is a webinar model. So I can share my screen with my slides and I can share my video, but I can't see what's happening on the other side. And this can be really confusing. It can be really daunting because what's happening is you're speaking, you're putting out energy there in terms of your physiology, you're putting out energy there in terms of your tonality, your tempo, your volume, your pace, your cadence, but you're not getting anything back. And so what you have to learn to do here is you have to learn to use perceptual positions differently inside of your mind. Now, you're NLP trained. You understand what perceptual positions are. For the other people who aren't NLP trained yet, by me or Dr. Joe, is perceptual positions are different viewpoints. It's imagining how other people would view this situation. So, Claire, the first thing I do is I set up 3 perceptual positions. First of all is I imagine what it looks like to be on the other side of the camera. What does it look like to be looking at Daniel? Now, this is a really easy one to set up because as I talk to you here on StreamYard, I can see my physiology. I can see if my eyes are open, my eyes are closed. I can see how close I am to the microphone, etc. I can judge and gauge my physiology. That's the first one. The second thing I do is I imagine somebody on the other side of the screen watching me. And I would associate down into their body and imagine what it looks like to see Daniel through their eyes, seeing me from this angle or that angle, leaning forward, leaning back. I'll then imagine what it's like to hear my sound of voice, my tone. Am I speaking monotone? Am I picking up the pace? Am I slowing it down? Am I dropping my tone? And I imagine what it'd be like to process all of that through their filters. And then I imagine what it feels like. What's the emotion that I'm experiencing right now as Daniel shares this knowledge? And so I'm setting up that perceptual position. And what this does, it gives me an internal feedback loop. Okay, I'm putting out this message. What would my audience be experiencing now? And so you have to know your audience. Is this person at the start of their journey? Are they a beginner? Are they intermediate? Are they advanced? So I always clarify where these people are at the start so I can make sure I'm gauging it through the right perceptions. So that's the first thing. The other thing is I always imagine my wife being in the room with me, and I imagine her sitting over here to my left. That's where she sits. And I imagine what it'd be like to see me speaking. Now, if that imagination, as I'm picturing those pictures, hearing those sounds, if it doesn't feel right to me, then I'll quickly automatically adjust. And so that's how you start to use your NLP skills when you're presenting on Zoom or a webinar platform. You've got to use these perceptual positions. So that's the first one. The second thing I do, Claire, is the great thing about Zoom is you can communicate through the webinar model. And so what I do is I get people to express how they're feeling with an emoji. So let me ask you a question. Ladies and gentlemen, you're here watching us either live or on the replay. What I want you to do is I want you to put an emoji, a picture, one of these emoticons down in the chat box to tell me how you're feeling today. So I'm going to put up an emoji in the chat box now that represents how I feel. And automatically it's going to pop up in the group. Now I can see that, you can see that, and as everybody else puts in their emoticons on how they feel, I can now gauge the audience. That's one model. You can even ask the people how they feel on a scale of 1 to 10 about this topic. How do you feel about public speaking? Do you have a fear of public speaking? And if you did have a fear of public speaking, what is it on a scale of 1 through to 10? And so quickly you can gauge what's happening on the other side of the screen. Some people will put a 1, beautiful. Some people will put a 5. Some people will put a 10 out of 10. And so you can start to gauge. And so you can do it through emoticons or you can do it through scales of 1 through to 10. The other thing that I really like to do, Claire, which works really, really well, is I like to do a lot of hot seating. So this week, we have about 400 students coming to 100x DNA Masterclass, live, online, 3-day event. And my goal is to get as many people in the hot seat as I can. And what it looks like is this. It's me coaching you. And so what I do is now I can get live feedback. And I know that if Joe was in my training, he will be a representation of a small portion of the training. So once I understand what's happening with him, I'll better understand what's happening with the other students. And so they're my 3 hot tips to how I would approach the new world. So Claire says, this is very interesting as I have developed some prospect questions based on where people are at the time emotionally, but I can definitely do more. And thank you, lovely comment there. You guys are amazing. And yes, I could listen to you all day. Amir, thank you for sharing this. Hey, that looks like your brother, Joe. Is that your brother?
Yeah, just see that on the screen. I don't know. Oh man, this is hello. Yeah, no, I have no idea. Sometimes it happens like this on TikTok. There's so many accounts. They have my different pictures of me at different times, and I have no idea who they are. This is the payback that I'm not getting verified on TikTok. So I have really no idea.
So that's my ideas. And take any of those and, you feel free to accept those ideas or reject them. And what works for me is not always going to work for you. So what I'd do is I would just try one new thing and get the feedback. If it works for you, beautiful. If it doesn't, do something else.
That's awesome. And another thing that we can't forget then as well, to make sure that you send the invoice to Claire. For her for free, but the advice is for others. They have to pay, right?
Well, the best commission as a coach is seeing you break through a limitation and achieve success. And Joe knows the studies here about the mirror neurons. Whatever you experience, we experience. And this is what I love about being a coach. The best commission is when you take a strategy, you apply it and you get a win. Because as you feel the win, I also experience the win, which is a lovely. So if you want to make Joe and I happy, go have a win and we'll celebrate it with you.
Absolutely. And that's really what it's all about, Daniel. I guess being able to help someone bust through their obstacles and actually walk that track that they thought, oh, well, never imagined myself to be that way. Actually, I'm talking about myself as well, because I never imagined myself to be where I am in terms of doing public speaking and actually talking to crowds and changing people's lives. I was a very shy person, like we discussed before. But the idea here is how to break through, how to connect, how to stay as an interesting person with still staying on the topic. And a very important thing to mention is to get rid of the word I as much as we can. Why? Because the word I, we're by default, we're naturally interested in ourselves. This is the psychology, this is a real science. The more we eliminate focusing on ourselves and focus on our audience, whether clear it's on Zoom, it's in real, whatever it is, if the more we use the word you, the more you connect. And that's why when I'm talking to you, I'm not really sharing that much with Dan as a friend, as a brother. I'm more talking to you. That's why you can see and hear in your ears the very frequent use of the word you, and also customizing the advice to you. And I really love what Daniel said to you, Claire. Very professional, uh, very, very thoughtful person to say that, these things do work for me. You try them. Feel free to accept whatever you want and reject it. This is really, really pro tip, is how to project and how to give tips and advice, and knowing that to accept that some people may reject them. I had to struggle with myself with this concept for years. Thankfully, not the case now. So, again, how to become an interesting person and really build your personal brand. One of the things I really like to hear more from you, Daniel, about is how to use the vulnerability to connect with the people deeply. Vulnerability means you are showing the people some weaknesses. Okay, for those people who are not native English speakers like myself, how can we use our, let's say, faults, our weaknesses, and actually move it from weakness to a strength?
It's a great question. And the first thing that we have to understand is that we all have a story, and we've already paid the price of that story. And now it's time to get a return. And when I'm talking to my clients, I say you have to profit from your pain. You've already had a lot of pain. And what you do is you do two things. First of all, you say, this is what happened to me. And then you explain what happened to you. And then you say, the second thing is this is what you can learn. And I'm going to dovetail on what Joe said. If I tell you all about me, it's about me, 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 me. And this is where the majority of public speakers fail. People aren't there to see the speaker. They're there to learn something about themselves. So when the speaker says, this is what happened to me, 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 and never says, and this is what you can learn, the audience realize that this is not about them. And it's always about the listeners. It's not about the speaker. So what you do is you say, this is what happened to me. You give them an overview of what happened. And you're not there to get what we call pai pai. Pai pai in Taiwan is pats on the back. It's about getting pats on the back for your pain. You say, this is just what happened to me. And it's an account of what happened. It's a description of what happened to you. And then once you've shared your story, you then say, and this is what you can learn. And then your job as the speaker is to tell them, this is what you can learn. So how about we even demonstrate this? When I was living in Dubai, I got a phone call at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was sound asleep and the phone rang. And there's never good news, Joe, when the phone rings at 4 a.m. in the morning. It's always bad news. And you've had this experience before. The phone rings at 4 a.m. in the morning, and what happens? The heart just drops, but also at the same time, simultaneously, you're fully alert.
Absolutely right.
And so I picked up the phone, and the voice on the other end of the phone said, Daniel, good morning. This is the Emirates duty controller. And I said, yes, duty controller, good morning. How may I be of assistance? They said, Daniel, there's a call out for peer support. However, there's been an accident on the aircraft and it involves your fiancé. You're required to come down to the landside hospital immediately, not on duty. And
mm,
you know that feeling when you've heard that a loved one's been in an accident? You don't think about what you're
mm,
wearing. You don't worry about your breath. You don't think about what pants you do or don't have on, and you just run straight to the door. And I went
mm,
straight to the door and I went straight down to the Landside Hospital. And when I got there, I
mm,
found my fiance lying in a hospital stretcher in a cast from her hip to her knee.
mm,
Now, this was a traumatic experience, but this is what you can learn about emotional intelligence. At that
mm,
stage, I didn't use catastrophic thinking. Catastrophic thinking is when you imagine the worst thing possible. So,
mm,
using emotional intelligence, I regulated my emotion. So, what you can learn to do is when you get these messages, you've got to stop your mind from overthinking. And so, you focus on what's been said and you don't ruminate. You
mm,
work on the emotion that's been given and you don't create additional pictures or sounds or feelings in your body. And so, that's what I refused to do. And I took the message, which was there's been an accident, and I went straight down to the hospital. That was just one
mm,
episode. So I hope you've learned something from this. And there's two things in summary here. Remember, you always tell your audience, this is what happened to me. You don't cry, you don't get down into that emotion. You tell it
mm.
as an objective viewer. And then secondly, you say, this is what you can learn. And they go, wow, thank you so much for sharing that. And so that's how I like to do it. It works for me, but other methods work for other people.
This is really, really heavy, Danny. Thank you so much for sharing. And I think I really like how you tapped into critical thinking and catastrophic thinking, because this is going to be very important hot topic that we should be discussing in the future, how to step up to that model to become kind of by default, this is your natural reactions to situations. One thing to, I know that we're wrapping up towards the end of the live now. So I really want to summarize a couple of things to highlight Daniel's story. Some of the wording I use, and feel free to use it or use other words if you think necessary. I use things like, okay, hi, my name is Dr. Joe Isaac. I have been blah, blah for 15 years. So it's a very short intro because I really don't like to talk about myself. I don't want to disconnect with the people. I want to stay that interesting person, that, mystery, as the mystery kind of reveals itself as we move through the training program. So I say, what does that mean for you is, and this is the part where we stop talking about ourselves. We actually talk to them and it's about them. So I said that this is my name and I am an industry expert in that, blah, 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 for 15 years. What does that mean for you? And then I start shooting the benefits for them. This is actually some of the words I use. I tell
Can
them,
I
okay,
just
how
jump
blah,
in
blah.
there?
Yep, sure.
You just said something very, very important, and we can't go past this. Joe said, I'm an industry expert. Let me repeat the words. He said, I am an industry expert. This is very important. If you say to people, I'm not an expert in this field, automatically their brain shuts down. And there's a lot of people reviewing products and services. And when I was buying a microphone like this, Joe,
Yeah.
I hopped onto YouTube and this gentleman said, I'm not a product expert in this area and I'm not a technician in microphones.
Hmm.
And I pressed stop because I said, why do I want to listen to somebody who's not an expert?
Hmm.
And I went to another video and the other one said, I've just bought this. I don't know much about these microphones, but I'm going to do a review on it. Well, why do I want a review of somebody who's not an expert?
Hmm.
So if you're an expert in a certain topic, tell the people you're a subject matter expert. And what happens is they lean forward. But if you tell them that you're not an expert or this is just something you're dabbling in, they lean back and their ears close and they drift away.
Hmm.
So great
And
concept there. I'm an industry
entirely
expert.
agree. Entirely agree. You are what you say you are and how you feel. And obviously, this is not an invitation from me or from Daniel's side on his behalf that we're asking the people to bluff it or say the industry experts if they're not. But you sure are an expert in something. Whatever it is, focus on that, grow in that area. So, to some kind of the main really highlights as we move towards the end of the life is how do you connect, become an interesting person, less talk about yourself, more talk about them. You may have heard this before, but today I'm giving you some edge. First edge I'm giving you, that is practice makes it perfect, and permanent practice and perfect and permanent practice makes it permanent, right? This is one thing. The second thing is some kind of wording that you can use to highlight that to the people, such as blah blah. What does that mean for you? Or I'm going to show you blah blah. What does that mean for you? What does that mean for you? Is etc. So now we've got the perfect practice makes it permanent. We've got what does that mean for you? And we also learned how to connect to the camera, to connect deeply by showing vulnerability, that Daniel shared his story and how he walked you through the emotions. And then quickly, as they shared the I section, he flipped the screen quickly onto the you. What does that mean for you? What can you take away from that story? Also, what I have done. It's been a beautiful, amazing, interesting live. I really don't want it to finish, but it is what it is. Daniel, you've got the mic.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, what we know is that one new idea is enough to totally transform your life. I went to a speaker's training in San Diego many years ago, and it was $10,000 to learn how to speak for 3 days. And I rang my mum and I said, "Mum, I need money." She said, "What for?" I said, "I'm going to go learn how to speak." She said, "Good on you, son." And I rang the wife and I said, "Quick, book me a flight to LA, get me a car so I can drive down to San Diego and book a hotel for 5 days." And I learned one new idea from that speaker's training. And on the final day of the speaker's training, I went and resold that one idea. I took that idea and I said to my client, I said, "I'm going to teach you how to speak publicly." And that one idea was worth $25,000 Australian to me immediately, but I only spent about 10,000 US on the course. And then within
Right.
90 days, I was speaking to a group of 450 people in Sydney. And so I know that one new idea about speaking is enough to change your life. You've probably had a dozen good ideas today, but all you need to do is to boil it down and take one away and do something new today. So we thank you so much for your time, Dr. Joe. Always nice to hear your words of wisdom. And I look forward to seeing you again next Monday, 3 p.m. Taiwan and 6 p.m. in Sydney. And we'll share more ideas with you, maybe even catastrophic and critical thinking next week.
Yeah, that will be nice. Actually, it's a very very hot topic. Jeremy just popped a question just before we leave. You know, we always look after you because we love helping you. How to overcome that words get stuck. To overcome this part, Jeremy, one of the best strategies I'm going to be talking about later on expanding. And please check my YouTube channel, New Limitless World, or Daniel's. You'll see a lot of our videos together for tips, real tips from experts that we know what we're doing. We've trialed it millions of times on how to achieve that. A quick one: learn the power of pause, Jeremy. The power of pause not only allow you to overcome the words get stuck thing, but it also allows you to breathe. And therefore, I have seen with a lot of people from an Asian descent that when they get nervous, the blood flow will rush to their head. So they'll become really red, just like when they drink alcohol. And one way to capture this is to regulate your breath. So by pausing, not only you capture the attention and regulate as well and get rid of that redness, but also it allows you to rethink your direction. So as we are wrapping up, obviously through live streams we do our best, but if you really 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 wanted to take yourself to the next level with coaches that can really lead you, DM us, get in contact with us, and we'll take you through a proper structured training where we can give you feedback about you and methodology that will work for you that may not necessarily work for anybody else. And that's the difference between training and presentation.
That was a home run. Well, that's a round of applause to all of you for being here with us. We appreciate that, and we shall see you again soon. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. We'll see you soon.
Take care. See you guys.